Being pleased for this meeting of the Midlands Combined Authority Investment Board. As usual, we'll work through the agenda. We have a number of people with us today. Some may know, others may not. I'm therefore just going to ask people to identify themselves in the room and who you're representing. So I'm Councillor Bob Slay, I'm the Deputy Mayor, and I chair the Investment Board.
Councillor Mike Byrne, I'm the leader of Walsall Council.
Gareth Bradford, Housing and Regeneration at the Combined Authority.
Carl Beat, Head of Transport Strategy, Transport for West Midlands.
Nicholas Small, Very Light Rail, Programme Manager, City Council.
Colin Knight, Director of Transport and Highways, Coventry City Council, and here for Very Light Rail.
Councillor Jim O'Bourne, I'm the Cabinet Member for Jobs Regeneration, Climate Change from Coventry Council.
Sue Summers, West Midlands Development Capital, which is the Fund Manager for CA.
Nick Oakley, Head of Property Finance, West Midlands Development Capital.
Ed Bradburn, Investment Director, West Midlands Development Capital.
Gerald Ganaway, Investment Director, West Midlands Development Capital.
Abercrombie, Finance Director, West Midlands Growth Company.
Katie Trout, Director of Policy and Partnerships, West Midlands Growth Company.
Carl Pearson, WMCA Finance, here on behalf of Linda Hall.
Councillor Bob Piper, Deputy Leader, Sandwell Council.
Gary Taylor here representing GBS LEP.
Councillor Steve Clark, Deputy Leader of Dudley Council.
Dan Essex, Government Services Manager at the Combined Authority.
Ian Martin, Investment Commercial Activities Director at CA.
Now, I know the people on the screen didn't hear a word of that because nobody chose to put their microphones on. So can we do so if we do wish to speak in the meeting? I won't take the people on the screen at this point in time, but if you do indicate that you wish to speak, perhaps you could identify yourself before you speak accordingly. On that basis, I'll take, are there any apologies for absence?
Chair, we received apologies today from Councillor Grinsell from Surrey Hall, Councillor Jefferson from Stratford, Councillor Jones from Birmingham, Councillor Simpkins from Wolverhampton, and Paul Brown from the Black Country Labour.
Notification of substitutes, have you just done that? Okay. Fine, okay. Just to let you know, we are quorate. We only need 4 voting members to be quorate, so the decisions will be taken by the board today on the recommendations. We don't need to refer those on to the Chief Executive. I'll therefore take declarations of interest, if any. Members are reminded of the need to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest they have in an item being discussed during the course of the meeting. In addition, the receipt of any gift or hospitality should be declared where the value of it was thought to exceed £25 for gifts or £40 for hospitality. Are there any declarations of interest at this point in time? None indicated. We therefore move to the substantive elements of the agenda, and these are the minutes of the 14th of November. They're there for a true record. Are there any amendments required before we actually agree them as a true record? No indications, therefore are we agreeing that those are a true record of the meeting of the 14th of November? I think we are. Thank you. We therefore move to item 5 on the agenda, which is a standing item. It's the investment programme update. We'll take it in 2 parts. We'll have the report in the first instance, and then we'll go to the dashboard to throw any separate questions. I'm going to pass over to Ian Martin to actually give us an update on the investment programme.
Thank you, Chair. The funding commitment through the investment programme as at the end of November were 853.8 million. That's versus funding available from confirmed income streams of 871 million as approved by the CA board. The reduction, which there was a reduction that was marginal from the previous month, is likely to be temporary as the UKC Overtrace Roundabout project will be under budget, but works on the wider UKC projects will require this released funding. The remaining limit to the 871 million is fully utilised by earmark contributions approved by WMCA board. Costs incurred or drawings to October were 485.3 million, slightly up on the previous month. But as we pay quarterly, we're expecting that to increase into the new year. Since the last board in August, WMCA statutory officers have approved the following under their delegations, which is UKC Parallel Designs, extended the project end date from the 31st of December 2025. That's due to the ongoing delays with HTTP progress. UKC Hub Movement and Connectivity, which is the extension of the project date to 31st of 12th 23 due to ongoing delays, such as 2 again. UKC roundabout aim trace, which is a reduction in funding of 6 million due to the forecast underspend allocation available elsewhere in UKC projects subject to approvals. And the UKC UGC business plan, which was an increase of £1.1 million funded in part by the overtrace in order to extend the UGC lifespan for 12 months to 31st of 3rd 24. That's the first instance in order to replan activity around the go no-go decision for the multi-storey car park.
Thank you. I will declare an interest as a UGC board member, but there are no decisions. It's just a note of report. Any questions on the report itself at this point in time? Anyone on the screen indicate if you wish to ask any questions with regard to the report we've just taken. So the report is to note. And I'll therefore now just move to the IP dashboard. And again, Ian, if you can just brief us on where we are with the dashboard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. 82 projects, that's unchanged, having approval. 16 projects reached their completion. That's an increase of 2 projects, which will be subject to evaluation in 2023, which we'll work through. On the red status projects, the number of projects that won't comply with the original business case timescale, but at least 6 months difference, that's increased significantly on this report. A large number of those schemes, and there's 20 of them, are under the SMBC UKC infrastructure programme, where colleagues in assurance and appraisal are working with Solihull to redocument those subject to a change request, which means that change request is imminent. There won't be any difference in terms of funds that are required for those projects. It is simply a question of moving expiry dates due to the impact of COVID. And the remaining 6 projects are Coventry Station Master Plan, Coventry South Interchange, Sprint, Birmingham Sutton Coldfield, Metro Birmingham East Side Extension, Metro Wolverhampton Interchange, and Metro Riley Hill Extension. Some of those projects have spent very minimal money. It's just a movement of dates.
Any questions on the investment programme dashboards for information in essence? No indications in the room, no indications on the screen. We'll therefore take those matters as being reported for information only at this point in time. We are awaiting a number of change requests, which will go through the board in the normal way. Those are being processed at this point in time. I'll therefore move on to item 6 on the agenda in the public section. This is the update report on City Regional Sustainable Transport Settlement, Q2 for the year 22-23. I think, Carl, are you doing this, please? Thank you.
I am, thank you, Chair. So yes, I'm sure many people in the room will know City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement is our 5-year £1 billion capital settlement for transport. It's a consolidated transport settlement, so it includes major schemes, the smaller projects as part of integrated transport block and maintenance. As I said, our indicative allocation from government announced in 2021 was £1 billion, and following submission of our programme to CA board in January, that £1 billion was confirmed by government on the 1st of April. The final list of schemes and grant conditions was approved by BFT in July, and that's one of the reasons why we don't have a Q1 report. We're starting on Q2 while we sorted out the T's and C's. One of the main elements from the terms and conditions from government is a really rigorous approach to monitoring and evaluation of this programme, as you would expect. and DFT require both a quarterly report and an annual report on our progress in delivering those projects. So in terms of the requirements that government have, as you would imagine, they are fairly stringent. Overall progress at the programme level, but also a number of information they require at a project level as well. So how projects are progressing, their spend, risk, and so on. And TFWM and the Combined Authority as the accountable body are taking on the role of undertaking the monitoring and evaluation of the programme on behalf of the CA and local authority colleagues. So in terms of our Q2 update, as you can imagine, the start of a 5-year programme, we're in the mobilisation period. We have a number of projects at the strategic outline business case stage, and there's been really, to be honest, tremendous progress over the first 2 quarters in developing those business cases and having them submitted through our single assurance framework process. And we do have a number of projects that have gone all the way through to OBC, FBC, and some that are now ready for them. And in terms of the financials, about 400 million of the billion has been approved so far. So that includes highway maintenance and local network improvement plans that are essentially double devolved down to local authorities to deliver, as well as the final year of Transforming Cities Fund and a number of other projects that were approved at April CA boards, so Sprint and some of the Midland Metro maintenance projects. And of that 400 or so million so far, 74 million has been distributed in around 27 different aid. So we are in the early stages of the programme. I think those figures kind of reflect where we are in terms of the mobilisation. In terms of the key risks, I'd probably like to highlight. One is that the majority of the projects on their programme so far are projecting that they will finish in the final year of the programme. And then within that, a large proportion in the final quarter of the final year. And that's something we'll be working through with scheme promoters to understand if that really is the case and what the impact of that might be, as that is quite heavily back-ended. The other risk that won't surprise members of the board is inflationary pressures, something that's happening for all transport and infrastructure projects across the country. And we're in regular conversations with DFT and scheme promoters about how we seek to mitigate that. Coming forward, we've got a number of projects coming forward through the single assurance framework process over the next quarter, and we're beginning to have conversations with local authority and TFWM scheme promoters on our Q3 return back to DFT. That Q3 return will have a requirement for even further information as they seek to understand where we are towards the end of the calendar year. The clear actions that we've got at the moment are the Q3 monitoring report will go to Strategic Transport Board, so chaired by Councillor and Transport portfolio holders, and we'll be having detailed discussions with scheme promoters as we lead up to that Q3 return to see where there's any movement on the projects. Yeah, I'll finish there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. This is the Q2 report for 22-23. The reason it comes here is we make decisions with regard to CRSTS funding, and therefore we have an oversight responsibility. Before I take Councillor Boyle, I'll just ask Ian Martin just had a few comments with regard to the paper, and then I'll come to Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. As Carl said, this is early days, and the investment board will get into the swing of looking at these reports and its monitoring oversight function, as the Chair said, because we're making decisions on this programme. I think, whilst you'll be familiar with the investment programme, there's 3 key differences in my mind. One is this has DFT oversight, whereas investment programme is using devolution money, and we are kind of masters of our own destiny in that respect. And some of the projects have been singled out for increased scrutiny by DFT. We'll be talking about one of those in the agenda today. Crucially, the outputs must be delivered by March 2027, so that makes the monitoring role quite important in terms of whether projects are on track or not. And there is a requirement for some projects that have made commitments around match funding. The match funding is delivered. That's in the paper at section 6.5.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Boyle, please.
Thank you, Bob. It's just really just to bring, I suppose, to the notice of the investment board that, as you said, this also goes to Transport the Strategic Transport Board, which I'm a member of, and I've raised the same point there. And it is that, as has been said, a lot of these projects are back-ended, which means that, in effect, the argument could be that they won't draw down money until they require it at some stage in the future because of how these mechanisms work. What we can't afford to do, though, is to make change requests that means that potentially money is moved elsewhere to other projects that require it now, which then potentially means there could be a shortfall at the back end, because the nature of some of these projects are by the nature of them are going to take until at least 26, 27. So that's something that we're going to be monitoring very closely from the strategic board as well. I'm just making the point here because we really can't afford to do that, because these are all priorities for the respective authorities that want to see them through.
Point well made. Carl, do you want to just pick that point up? Is there anything you need to add?
Yeah, I think there'll be a number of discussions that take place as the programme develops. There is also a reserve list of schemes should things need to move in and out, but the plan is really to deliver the schemes in the programme to the timescales that we've got at the moment.
Welcome back.
Really, only to say clearly there are one or two projects here that are extremely expensive, and the danger is they swallow up an awful lot of money. And when you take inflation and all the rest of it into account, and people move on and people forget what has been agreed and done all the rest of it, before you know it, it's gone. So, as I said, I get the point, but nevertheless, I think that's a really important point to make.
Right. Yeah, and we therefore do have a monitoring evaluation process within this board, as well as the strategic board. So I think from a governance perspective, we're probably well covered, but the point's well made. I think it's one that we're going to face on a number of the reports as we take them over a period of time. Are there any other questions, please, Gary?
Thank you. You both touched on the issue of this delivery in 27 and in some cases the last quarter. What are the consequences of not delivering by then? Because we sort of know through painful lessons of history that if you've got, I don't know how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 projects, there's going to be one, isn't there, at least, that will end up with something that we've not foreseen or someone's not foreseen.
Yes, so the DFT and Treasury were both clear when we pulled the programmes together that they were expecting the full delivery to take place in this 5-year period. And I don't think they've changed their position on that so far. I think the fact we do have regular monitoring and a reserve list of projects, if it does become apparent that some schemes can't deliver and we do need to deliver, there is a change control process and an agreed list of reserve schemes that could be moved in if they need to be. But it will be something that we need to keep a very close eye on as we monitor this significant programme. It is a significant programme, everybody knows.
I mean, given that this is a national programme, everybody else will have the same issue, and trying to deliver transformational transport schemes of this scale, there's going to be overrun, isn't there? And overrun in terms of time. And
it's a conversation all the 7 combined authorities with CRSTS funding are having with each other and with government as well. As you say, it's a shared issue across the country, but there are the change control mechanisms, the over programming and the monitoring in place to be able to mitigate those once they happen.
Gary, okay. Yeah. Anyone else wish to raise any matters before we move on? Councillor Bird.
Just to say, there is a paper going to the Combined Authority board on Friday, which outlines some of the issues faced in transport. And I think that will probably be a more meaningful discussion as to where we are, where we're going. Certainly not a good picture, can we say that?
Yep, thank you. Paper will be discussed at the board meeting Friday to give us a clearer picture of where we are with transport, but the points are well made. So, Carl, anything else you want to say? Okay, thank you. On that basis, the recommendations for action or decision, we acknowledge the contents of the report, including the M&E and reporting requirements associated with the regional sustainable transport settlement as set out in section 4, the programme monitoring plans as set out in section 5, and the Q2 full year 22-23 progress reported as of section 6. So we're noting those accordingly within the minutes. All agreed. Thank you. Good. We now move to the regular range of investment program. Sorry, the dashboards. These are the public reports. Nick, you're going to just give us an update as to where we are with the public matters.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So items 7, 8 and 9 are the dashboards for the WMCA Collective Investment Fund, the Brownfield Land and Property Fund and the Revolving Investment Fund. These are for noting, as you say, and I will provide a full update under private session.
Thank you. Any questions on the public elements of the report, not the private ones at this stage? No. No indications from the screen, no indications within the room. We're covering the Collective Investment Fund, Brownfield Land and Property Development Fund, the dashboard, and the Revolving Investment Fund dashboard within that element. Okay, all noting accordingly. Therefore, it's excluding the press and the public, and I therefore pass the following resolution that in accordance with section 184 of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and the public be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of the following items of business as they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information related to the business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. Thank you, Mr. Weller. If you could leave us now. Thank you.